Hello and welcome to Ula Tea Leaf Readings. My name is Lenore, and today I'm going to be reading your tea leaves. We'll also be joined by Pudgy. He might be hanging out a little bit. So I want to begin just like right up here. This is the first thing that I noticed. It's a beautiful image. We have the horse, okay, right here. You can see the legs. Now you can see the knight sitting on top of the horse, riding the horse. And right here in the front, we have a cloaked being, hand out. And above, I almost imagine kind of the symbol of a bird, some kind of hawk, eagle, um, something very like thunder, lightning, electrical, maybe within the wand energy. But there seems to be this kind of romanticism, this almost medieval kind of motif. Um, and we have the heart as well, right? Right where the saddle kind of would be. So I immediately I'm drawn into this thinking of, chivalry, right? Courtly love, um, love through great restraint, and even systems of conduct and courting um, and really honoring often love that is unrealized, right? Uh, this is a love of honor, um, of the mind, of the heart, uh, not unlike acts of agape, to live in devotion to, to be kind of married to the divine, right? To have a celestial spouse, or to give yourself over to some kind of maybe like icon worship, or become a devotee, or, something like this. And often not living with like a physical proxy for that divinity, right? There is um, a sense of separateness. There is a strong bond and union, and especially through word, right? But there is a space. There is a kind of, you can imagine having like a beautiful love affair through letters during some old war time, right? Where you're separated, maybe even, for months and years, and on different continents, and, never really knowing if you would ever see one another again. And, getting those letters, and writing those letters, and poring over those letters, and there is a certain kind of freedom in living much in the imagination, right? Having that love in those interior spaces. Does that mean that it would be the same if it's actualized? I don't know. Sometimes, right? Sometimes it is. Sometimes I imagine that happens. I think in this case, this is not so much about a love that is within the Malkuthian realm, right? Within uh, the four corners of the home, right? It's not necessarily somebody that you are like domestic with, or um, maybe it's not even a person at all. Like I was saying, right? We're talking about having a marriage, a bond, to the divine, which okay, I know there's probably not a lot of people practicing that lifestyle, not truly, right? um, we can think of nuns, right, and other kinds of people who live somewhat cloistered lives or go off and kind of sequester themselves somewhat from society to I just wrote on myself. And away from the bulk of what we would call normal living, right? The common man living. These are people, probably not people that we're meeting very often. But I think that there are probably more people living in love with things and ideas and people and situations quietly than we can even begin to realize, right? Everybody has their own interior kingdom, their own histories, their own lore, as people like to say now. And I think so often we forget that we ourselves are living in our own unique and often playful worlds, right? And so I get the feeling that this is something that, now maybe it is. Maybe this is like somebody you meet online, you meet through friends, you're off backpacking in some country, you meet briefly, you stay in touch, whatever, right? It could be something like this, right? Where there is the actual separation of space, and it's a real person, and, so on and so forth. Or, I mean, maybe what does real person mean? Maybe it's like a AI thing. I know people have relationships with, um, I don't know, AI, I guess. I don't, I don't know. But, I've heard of it anyways. Um, and I'm not trying to make light of it in either way. I mean, I am kind of giggling because I don't know. I think, it's wild how fast it's all come on, right? It used to just be like that. What was that dude's name? The little paperclippy guy, right? And suddenly, I mean, it's probably like, what was that, 30 years ago? I'm like, all suddenly, 2 days later, we have AI. No, but I mean, it seems wild that in my lifetime we've gone from like nothing, nobody had a computer at home, to like, people getting them, and then we had Clippy or whatever his name was. And now we have people, having like fully immersive, and if it's not a romantic relationship, like a mentorship, a study research partner, um, whatever, if you partake, right? I don't know if we're supposed to say that we do or don't or whatever, but I know people do. Okay. Um, it could be something like that as well. But here's the other thing, this might be really a very much more kind of romantic, um, you know, living within the realm of imagination, of spirituality, of connection to the greater whole, these kinds of more esoteric vibes, right? Um, and really, that you are having a deep love affair with some aspect uh, of your interior, dude. Like, it feels like it's very intensely in that realm. Okay. Um, And I get this like imagery that it has so much to do with using natural natural materials to make art, possibly. I feel like I know that's like uh I get this imagery of a person on a horse, right? A very kind of common idea of like a medieval knight, you know, the Arthurian, this kind of thing. Um, but outside, and there's a storm, and it's the skies, they're dark, and the grass is green. It is the greenest green that you could imagine. It is moss, it is damp, it is lush, it is inviting, it is beloved, it is everything, right? And there is a person standing there, and they're barefoot, they're cloaked, they're, holding the reins of the horse and looking up at the night. And it's an older person, um, maybe a crone, maybe an old wise man, a hermit. But there's a bird, there's some kind of war bird, right? And so I almost get the imagery of maybe like a Woden or something like this. Um, and it is this begging to make, create, to get down into the mud, into the water, to catch the water, to mix the pigments, and to, paint your face, to paint uh, across the sky, across hide, um, across the drum, and it feels like this is a moment where you're starting to realize that there's something else, that this life that you have lived, the life that you have prepared yourself for and executed in a lot of ways, um, is coming to an abrupt and swift change. I mean, the current is shifting quickly, right? And so we also have up here the letters, it looks like MCA. So I'm going to write that down, MCA. We have the dog and the bird again. We have just this, here's the dog, right? Here's the head, here's the body, here's the bird on the back. We also have down here, it looks like a person. You can see the head, the arms are here and here. We have holding something, legs, in a very solid stance, okay? Now, above we have the fish, and this is the sign of money. And below, it looks like we have almost kind of, I don't want to say like people vying for your attention, your resources. I feel like it's like you're constantly having to help others in your life. And I think that you feel good about this in a lot of ways, but also at times it feels like maybe you are putting in more than you're receiving uh, energetically. And I don't just mean financially, but it also feels like where, you've spent a lot of time figuring out how to make money. I mean, just make money, right? To have the job, the career, the hustle, the whatever, the business, um, the skill set to make money, and probably more than one. I mean, let's face it, right? And so, you've done this and you do this and you continue to be on point with this, and yet it feels like there are people in your life, and maybe it's like your kids, your adult kids, or somebody who feels kind of entitled to even being able to partake in your resources, right? It feels like there is a sense of not really having a lot of, like, stopping and thinking, is this something really important? Do I need to be borrowing this money? Do I need to be asking for help? There's not a lot of that boundary there, it feels like. So I think it's something that you have spent a lot of your energy trying to just keep up, just stay on the level, to maintain what you yourself are building. But then, there are other people in your life that are coming around a lot. And I think that you like to help. You like to be, maybe the matriarch, the patriarch of the family. But I think at times it becomes very overwhelming for you. Okay. And I think during this time, it seems to me that you are shifting into a different mindset, because I think that things are changing. They're changing. What used to work is not working anymore, right? What we thought we would ride out into the sunset doing, all of a sudden is, obsolete, completely outmoded. And, there's a lot of figuring out, like, what are we going to do collectively and all of this. And I think for you, you are, obviously not just going to ignore it. That being said, I don't think that you're freaking out either. I think that you know yourself. You know that you are going to be able to figure this out. You're going to be able to do your thing. And I think I would say that I know, right? This is where you are learning not to be so attached, to this old idea of what things were going to be like for everybody, or what the dream was, the collective dream, the collective enchantment, right? And as that is rapidly falling away for a lot of people, or already has, or maybe they never were conditioned in that way, we are seeing that, we better figure out, like, what are we going to be doing? Now, I also think that it's made for a lot of honesty, at least within self. I see this a lot more in people being quite honest with themselves, right? I am not prepared for whatever is to come. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. I don't know, what even is going to happen, what is meaningful anymore. We've had so many waves in the last years of families breaking up, of these huge social things emerging and being analyzed, and quite divisive in a lot of situations. And I think that a lot of people have lost confidence in one another. And, I don't know, rightfully so, maybe not, I don't know. But I think that we have lost this idea, or at least I think some of us have, that there is any promise of longevity of pretty much anything. Pretty much anything. Okay. I think that this is, something that can be very detrimental. And at times, for even myself, who I hate change, and yet I am a daughter of discord. You know what I mean? Like, I am an agent of chaos, uh, for sure. I still get like freaked out. I get freaked out. You've heard me over the months. I get freaked out. Yet, yet, it's really giving us the allowance to just be like, I'm not going to do the stuff that doesn't mean anything to me. I'm not going to do the performing. I'm not going to do the dance unless I want to do the dance. You know? Of course, we are going to enact our self preservation. You should. But there's not a lot of reason, in my humble opinion, to continue hiding from ourselves. Now, I'm not telling you to go out there. You don't have to listen, I fully believe in privacy. Don't get me twisted. I'm not about everything should be transparent for everybody to know. And I also believe heavily in mind your business. Okay? But this is a time where there's no reason for us to be lying to ourselves about who we are and what many things we are, what we've been, what we might be, what we could be, our contradictory, personas and attitudes about things and beliefs, the conditionings, the coping mechanisms, the malformed, things that emerge within our being, our personalities, our lives, whatever. Pause it. Get it out of here. Get it out of here. Why anymore? Who are we trying to impress? Nobody knows themselves. Nobody knows themselves, and they don't even care to know themselves. And if they do, or if they are trying, they carry with them an energy that, I don't know about you, but I have no ill will towards really anybody, right? I'm protective, and I do like my privacy. But you meet people who are actually out here trying, healing, fighting against whatever it is that they need to fight against. You don't want to mess with people like that. But also, here's the thing. The only way that we can get through and get into that space where we can put down the necessity to be just working ourselves to the bone in an endless cycle of compulsion. I mean, it feels like just gonna keep doing it, and I'm all about doing the work. Don't get me wrong, I work a lot. I do a lot of things, right? It's busy all the time, just like you are, just like everybody is. But the only way that we're going to get through that loop, out of that loop, glitch the SH out of that loop, right? Jam it up, escape it in some way, right? Is to be honest with ourselves about who we are, what we need, you don't have to do it for anybody else. This isn't a performance that you need to do. But it's the key, and it's the doorway, and it's the only way to get to that place where, you're communing with the art. You are the art. You are living a life of creation, of being a creator, a magician, okay, an architect. And it's the only way. No, it's not. There's like a bazillion other ways. But in this case, it's what came to the top, right? It's what feels like the thing. And so, I know, I don't even know what I was just talking about. Just going on and on over here. My daughter, she's like, you were on about whatever. Last night she was saying, like, you were on about something, Mom. We're a big monologuing family over here, rambling, monologuing. Okay, so we have the number 31, and we have 2785. Let's see, 31, 2785. And I want to pull some little number or cards here. We're gonna do a couple cards, maybe one. We have a ram around you. There's a ram, and we have the number 9. Maybe an Aries. Babe, you can just come up. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. So I'm just gonna pull. Let's see. So we have the 10 of Swords. Emperor. Okay, so really just burnt out on being the one that's managing everything, that's kind of like pulling in the resources, doing all the things and making sure everybody's straight. Just worried. Everything feels like moving in, like, oh, I'm gonna have to do that, I gotta do it, moving in desperation. This has to work. If this doesn't work, that's not gonna work. Laying in bed thinking about it, the bills, the business, how am I gonna keep everybody happy, all these kinds of things. That's right where we're at. So I feel, I mean, it's the current, it's the Queen of Cups. It is this watery source of inspiration, of the stream that kind of flows down from that void place, that abstract, that kind of daemon thinking, having the ability to kind of step out of the lower, and lower doesn't mean like lesser or less than the higher thinking, but the fundamental things, right? Like, do I have a place to sleep? Do I have something to eat today? Do I have some water to drink? These kind of basic things that we all need, right? And that's in this lower realm here, or the first line, right? So then we have this stream of, it is like a higher thinking. It is that place where the ideas come from, the dreams kind of flow down into. It could be your interior, it could be your imagination, it could be that relationship with God, the divine, the logos, whatever it is for you. And that's it, man. I feel you off, floating on that river. It could be even like the Tao, right? You get into a more disciplined living or mindset, anyways, what you allow in the mind, so that you can kind of detach yourself from that overwhelming need to have some kind of, deep control, or success, or you meet your goals within your career, and then you want more and you want more and you want more, this obsession. um, and maybe it is also that you think you have to do everything by yourself, you know uh, but relinquishing some of that, allowing yourself to kind of, at least for a while, look away from it, and dream and follow those inspirations and follow those desires, and I think that being in that watery place, being with that very intuitive goddess energy that the queen, the mother, is, you are safe in there. You are a leaf floating upon the river, right? And the mind follows. So does the nervous system. Yes. And then we have the Empress, right? And we go from that kind of more rigid masculine to the more intuitive feminine. And there is a balancing. I'm not saying one is better than the other, obviously. But I feel like it's more from a managing, ruler of the land, to a growing, to a blossoming, to, all the flowers coming up under your feet as you walk. So anyhow, I gotta go. I love you guys. We'll talk soon. Bye.